Released on October 10th, 2014 for 3DS, December 1st, 2015 for Steam, and April 25th, 2017 on the PlayStation Vita, Legend of Dark Witch is a game made by indie company Inside System and published by Circle Entertainment. Both of these companies are relatively underground. Switch owners may recognize Circle Entertainment from Kamiko and Voez, but they've been around since the DS era. Circle mainly publishes smaller, cheap, kinda low budget, but fun titles like Kingdom Item Shop, Ambition of Slimes, Faerun, and of course, Legend of Dark Witch, the game that basically put them on the map. Legend of Dark Witch is a 2D platformer akin to Mega Man. You choose between 6 stages with the goal being to reach the end of the stage and defeat the boss. During a stage, you run around jumping and blasting enemies, but as you do, you collect something called Tres from the enemy. Not only is it currency to use for upgrades, but it also fills up your gauge at the bottom left. This is called your enforcement gauge, and if it looks familiar, that's because it's the same system as Gradius. By collecting enough Tres to fill up a slot, you can choose to gain that benefit. These benefits include faster speed, a float option added to help with platforming after you jump, increasing how many bullets you're shooting or swapping to an alternate way of firing, and lastly, increasing your power. If you get hit, then you lose some of your gauge, losing more the higher the gauge gets. It's a rather simple addition, but it's a nice spin on the Mega Man formula, giving it a risk versus reward system that adds to the appeal. Will you take your time upgrading everything one by one, or will you save it to get a wider range or increase in power? It's entirely up to you and how you play, and that aspect is very interesting. Hidden in most stages is Pura Sega. These increase how many times you can upgrade something on your enforcement gauge. Most of the time there are 2 of them in each stage, with different colors corresponding to what they're upgrading. At the end of a stage, you will find a portal that takes you to the boss arena. After some banter and some fighting, you will gain a boss weapon. But be careful, using a boss's weapon will drain Tres from your enforcement gauge. So really, it's only useful during other bosses and when you don't want to upgrade anything else. Speaking of upgrading, at the stage select screen, you can go to the shop to spend your Tres on stuff like increasing your maximum health or extra lives. After beating all 6 bosses, a 7th stage called Forest of Dreams unlocks. If you have gotten all 12 pure Sega in the previous stages, you will find a 13th Sega in this stage that will give you an extra ability on your enforcement gauge. This ability is Guard, and it puts up a shield that will absorb 1 hit in place of your health. After beating the 7th stage, however, the final 8th stage, Deep Remains, unlocks. And the only thing that's in this stage is a boss rush with the initial 6 bosses, and then the final boss, a princess named Riva. But this princess is a bit of a brat. See, the story of this game is that humanity has these crystals called Sega. They can grant magical abilities and are used for things like starting fires or medicinal purposes. But one day, most of them go missing. Zizuo, a goddess, is tasked with finding the crystals and restoring the balance to the world. She does this by seeking out any people still in the possession of Sega, which leads to our 6 bosses. After getting enough clues, she goes toward the Deep Remains, getting past Riva's guard, meant to stop her in the Forest of Dreams. Princess Riva herself wants to use the Sega crystals to make her kingdom the strongest in the world, and to destroy anyone who revolts. But, with us being a powerful goddess, we beat her and stop her plans. Even when tapping into the power of her own Sega and going one-winged angel, she still can't win against the power of a protagonist. So, yeah, Zizuo gets the Sega back, and peace is restored until the next game, that we'll be getting to in another video. But, after beating this game with Zizuo, you can unlock Riva to play as. She's weird. Her normal shot is the shortest reaching thing in the world, forcing you to get right in the face of enemies in order to hit them, but this is because she can charge her attacks. Her normal short range pea shooter becomes like a magnum once charged up. Likewise, her alternate shot is making knives fall next to her, or swords if you charge it. And because of this, the last slot on her enforcement gauge isn't increasing attack, it's making your normal attack your charge attack for a limited time. The other change on her enforcement gauge is that she has a dash instead of a float, which is so uncontrollable that you'll most likely be sent careening into an enemy. She's sort of like a challenge mode, but at the same time an easy mode. Again, it's weird. All in all, this is a really good game. The level design is solid, pixel art is great and expressive, there's tons of different enemies depending on the stage, my personal favorite being the bodybuilder snowman that breathes fire while flexing, and there's also little things that just make the experience better overall. A big one for me is that when there's some form of a hazard that's off screen but nearby, you get a danger pop-up, signaling you to watch out, there's something below you or coming from above. I love that. Honestly, I wish that was in more games like this. I hate making leaps of faith and getting blindsided by stuff. It's small, sure, but it's a very convenient thing that makes the experience more fun in my opinion. There's not even any real apparent flaws with this game, besides, Riva and her weird abilities. This game's just really solid and fun. Some people may not like the visual design of the characters or how the banter between bosses doesn't really tell you much, but that's actually kind of the point. Some of you may have noticed that this game is very Toho-like, with the cute girls with the Lolita designs and dialogue that's very off-topic and goofy. Well, that's because Inside System used to make Toho Doujin games. More interesting is that they made a trilogy called Toho Gendansho, and it was a 2D platformer that played like Mega Man with elements of Gradius. Yeah, these guys took their fan game, made it its own thing, and now have a decently popular franchise with 3 main games and 3 spin-offs. That's amazing. I honestly wish other fan game makers did this, but what can you do? With all that said, that is pretty much all I have to say on the first Legend of Dark Witch game. Let me know if you've actually played Legend of Dark Witch and what you think about it in the comments below. Guys, be safe out there, and thank you so much for watching.
That's